This grave marker tells a story, but its message is vanishing. I've explored cemeteries all around the world, rural and urban, elaborate and unmarked. These stones and plaques aren't placed at random. They're left with intention to preserve memory, to resist oblivion. And while their stories are different, they all face one inescapable truth. Grave markers don't last forever. Cemeteries are more than burial grounds, they're archives that preserve who we are, how we came to be. But what happens when we lose the ability to read these monuments? Or the people that care are themselves gone or unable to remember? Aside from my broad cemetery interests, that's something that I've actually had some first-hand personal experience with. As this modest memorial plaque records, my dad took his own life over 30 years ago when I was just 7 years old. He wasn't a well man, and in a social sense had already been taken from my life years before, and I from his. All that remains now is this plaque and a fairly hefty stack of letters and some fragmented photographs. For a while I've been thinking about how I might preserve his memory, perhaps even learn more about him and maybe even myself. How we might preserve memory in the face of death is a dilemma we're all going to face, perhaps many times. But the good news is, I've got something that might be able to help. Death comes in many forms. That's not just in terms of the different manners in which we might die and end our conscious experience and memory. It even includes the philosophical sense in which we might be considered to be dead. There is of course the physical and biological sense of death, but you might also have heard of social death. Social scientists often explore the concept of social death, a state of detachment from the living, a disconnect from social life, something that usually occurs before the biological death of an individual. Death in this form isn't so much about the physical decline, more the treatment or perception of someone as being dead or perhaps even no longer human. Like biological death, there's variations as to how this could be experienced. People who deal with disability, dementia, or are even subject to slavery might experience a kind of social death. It might even be experienced by way of a kind of social suicide, as it's sometimes also known. Like biological death, it can be very broad. Many view death as occurring in three phases. Biological death, the disposal of the body, and finally when a person is forgotten, their name no longer spoken. You could say that, in some ways, the monuments and plaques we place in cemeteries aim to conquer the third phase of death. Some of the oldest and most awe-inspiring structures on Earth were built for that very purpose, with varying degrees of success. However, we have an advantage in the present. A defining feature of the age of information is digitization. We live in a time where we're able to preserve our memories and stories in new ways and new forms, like through YouTube. But in addition to that, there are other and more personalized ways of doing so. In fact, I've recently been talking to the team at Aftercloud. They provide a digital storytelling platform where you can upload your letters, photographs, and other various bits of information to create lasting memories as part of an interactive timeline. You have the ability to link the timelines to a unique QR code and place it somewhere meaningful, say on a memorial, an object, or a place that has deep meaning to you, and access it via computer or mobile. It's an incredibly useful tool that you can use to digitize and preserve memories. There's a ton of different ways you can utilize Aftercloud, from adding digital timelines to memorials, to preserving oral histories from family members or even veteran accounts. You can even use them to provide historical context to collectible items like classical cars. It's a really modern and innovative way of keeping our memories alive. I've put my affiliate link in the description if you're interested in checking it out. You get a 14-day free trial, and individual subscriptions start at £4.99 a month. If you're interested in learning more about what Aftercloud has to offer, let me know in the comments. The reality is, Most people aren't forgotten because they're unimportant or uninteresting. Rather, they just lack the means to preserve their story. If it's important to you, then it's important enough. Tools like Aftercloud are not just useful for piecing together the pieces of the puzzle to remember those that have passed, but also to preserve our own memories and decide how we want to be remembered. It's definitely worth checking out and pondering. How do you want to be remembered? Why not check out my other videos to see how those in the past have sought to overcome this third and final stage of death?